we want to thank the United Kingdom for the support that we are receiving on the very difficult road that we have now begun to travel on. We certainly have been elected not to do things the same way that the previous regime did it, but to do it differently, however difficult the path ahead might be. We referred to the commitments given to the Human Rights Council in Geneva, and within the next few days our government will make an announcement on the mechanism that we will follow in meeting those commitments. I also heard you refer to the fact that the British High Commission was appointing a defense attaché, and in politics, as you know, that those who have to oppose for the sake of opposing always have reasons to adduce to moves that are made. But I'm hoping that that announcement will mean that there will be more opportunities for our armed forces personnel to go from Sandhurst to Dartmouth, and I'm sure that they will welcome that opportunity. You referred to the anti-corruption drive. And when we talk about corruption, often we find that there is a lot of cynicism around. And that's why I'm taking this opportunity to actually say something about it. Corruption is actually a culture. And it's not a culture that will change in a month or two, or even in a year or two. It takes much longer. And often people define it as some politician who's probably taken some money or stolen some assets and actually hauling them before a court or actually putting them behind bars. Corruption is a lot more than that. Corruption is actually a cancer. Corruption is a way of life, and therefore tackling it is no easy thing. And I was glad that the Minister mentioned that we are in collaboration with many different agencies in actually changing this around. And as we took office, I could say that Sri Lanka had no capacity in actually tackling corruption. And we are busy, as you heard today, in actually building that capacity among various other short and long-term measures that we are taking. I was heartened just a few days ago to be in the company of the General Secretary of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, where we discussed the same issue on anti-corruption, and also to hear of the initiatives that the Chamber was going to take in actually tackling corruption in the private sector. Corruption is a disease, and if any particular section of society has it, it will easily spread amongst everyone else. So it needs to be tackled from every possible angle, and therefore I was really heartened to have been invited into that discussion, to know that the Ceylon Chamber was going to actually take some steps in that direction. Our relationship with the UK, right, is probably the most historical relationship with Europe that we have. I was this morning had the privilege of being in a very old Sri Lankan school. And the name of the school is Prince of Wales College in the suburbs of Colombo. It was my first visit, official visit to that school. I visited it 40 years ago to play on the playing fields of that school. But I was there today as a deputy minister and enrolling students to grade 1 at Prince of Wales College. 139 years old. A school which has excelled in many ways, including having 3 Sri Lankan cricket trialists even today. When I used to play cricket, the Sri Lanka schools cricket team, that college had 2 players even at that time, 40 years ago. The anthem of this school is the anthem of the Prince of Wales. It's the same anthem, which is the anthem of the school. The motto of the school was basically, and I won't try my Greek here, or my Latin either, it was basically saying step by step. And the reason I brought this to your attention is to just show how deep the relationship is. And certainly we want to build that relationship, even for that school with its historical roots, built on the visit of a Prince of Wales in 1875 to this country. Talking about schools and education, this is one of the strongest partnerships that we have between our two countries. Even today, we have thousands of students, studying in Britain. Of our transnational education market, which has grown about 31% in the last 5 years, a significant part of it, I was told about 25 to 27% of it, is related to British educational institutions. At least working with 28 UK universities presently in the market. I am also, in a sense, a product of a British university. I spent several years at the School of Oriental and African Studies in London. And the University of London, its external degree program is followed by thousands of students in this country while staying at home, still receiving a good education. This is something we need to continue to build. At present, as of 2014, we still had over 8,000 students studying in UK universities. Education is not a commodity. It's not for sale. I went to Britain at the time when we had to pay only £300 per annum for education. In my third year, I had to pay £3,000 per annum for my education. I went through that period, the transition period. I remember holding placards against Mrs. Thatcher's reforms at that time. And the reason I said that education is not a commodity, we had student protests yesterday and students halting traffic on the streets, basically saying education is not a commodity. And I agree with it. Our government is committed to building a social market, and therefore education should be provided to everybody. Our difference is this: we need to build our free education system and we need to invest more in it. But we do not believe that the government is the only supplier of education. We think that others could provide a quality education. Our government is for changing things, and therefore we seek your support, because people are generally resistant to change, and therefore we seek your support. As I watched those students protest yesterday, they are medical students belonging to the Sri Lankan state universities. Over 125,000 students qualify to go to university. Only 25,000 get the opportunity to go to a Sri Lankan university. And they are protesting about protecting their own rights. Is it fair? Why not give vouchers to every student who qualifies rather than just an education for 25,000 students only? Friends, if this country is to progress, we need to think anew. We need to think radically, and we need not be afraid to make the correct decisions and take the correct steps if we want to take Sri Lanka to the next level. And therefore, education is an area in which we really should basically work together. I heard the comments about trade and how things in trade, I looked at the statistics and I found in some areas, in tea we have had ups and downs, and we have an up. In garments, more or less stagnant. And then in tourist arrivals to this country, there's been a leap of British tourist arrivals, and we are very, very happy and pleased about it. And also the reference that the trade deficit is unfavorable to the UK. I would also urge you to look at, when you're looking at the trade deficit, to look at the service sector. I think Britain's biggest contribution actually comes from the service sector, from knowledge transfer, from consultancy, and also by giving Sri Lankan students an opportunity to be educated in Britain. And Honourable Minister, I think the picture may not look as bad as you made it to be. So I think there's a lot that we can do. There are many other things that I can say, but in the interest of time, I'm just going to stop there. I think there are areas that we could cooperate in the future, and one of the areas is in science and innovation, which is under your purview or in your portfolio. We are going to build a science and tech park, and therefore we have a lot that we can learn from Britain, and particularly from its experience. We also are going to venture out in a lot more public-private partnerships. Britain has done a lot in this area. Britain has had a mixed experience. We want to learn from its success and also its failures. I want PPPs, not all risk to government and all profits to the private sector, but we want PPPs from your experience that really work. So thank you again, and I toast to a much more strengthened relationship between the United Kingdom and Sri Lanka. Thank you.